Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome EFI CEO Jeff Jacobson.
I don't know about you, but I love when this industry comes together and we connect. So how about we make some noise? Let's go. Let's go. It is great to be here with so many great customers, journalists, friends, and so many familiar faces. I had the honor of participating in this Connect event, this fireside chat, just 3 years ago, but I was not on this side of the podium. Some of you may have heard, I took a little break from this industry for about 1 year. You know what it does? It gives you great perspective and the ability to reflect. What was very clear to me is something that I have known since I joined this great industry in 1987. I love this industry, and I love the people in it. So give yourselves a hand. You know, it's what this conference is all about. It's about connecting. It's about learning, socializing, and lifting each other up. Where's Mark Michelson? It's a little dark here. Mark, Printing Impressions. Mark wrote an article 3-4 weeks ago that this industry needs to do a better job of lifting each other up. We all have to do that. So Mark, you and your fellow colleagues keep writing about lifting this industry up because there's a lot of growth in this industry, and it's a great industry. In fact, it's an industry that was built by many icons. So while my children might say that I knew Gutenberg, the only Gutenberg that I really knew was Steve from the movie Police Academy. So while I did grow up looking up to people that I viewed as icons in this industry, such as Harry Quadracci of Quad Graphics, and my personal mentor, Ed Barr, who was the chairman and CEO of Sun Chemical, both gentlemen were strong leaders who built their companies on where the market was moving and clearly understanding that customer success and satisfaction are the basis for company success. You know, we put a lot of thought into the title of today's presentation, the Now and Future Pendulum. It's the ongoing balance and sometimes competing interest between the now and the future. But my question is a simple one with perhaps a more complex answer. Why do we need to choose between the now and the future? Throughout my 30-plus years in this industry, and 20 years since I've been a CEO in this industry, I've always been confronted with the same question from my team. Do we want more revenues or more profits? Why can't we have both? This is not a Miller beer commercial of tastes great or less filling. The now and the future is the same debate from when I joined this industry of analog versus digital. But isn't it simply just a convergence of the two? It's been this way for my 30 years. You know what? The technology may change, but the questions remain the same. When we are done today, I believe we will come to the same conclusion, that we want to be the now and we want to be the future. So a little history. I joined this great industry in 1987 in human resources with Polychrome. I made the move in 1993 into operations after working all day in human resources and attending law school in the evenings. When you work all day, attend law school in the evening, arrive home at 10:30 at night, kiss your wife, study till 3 a.m., get up at 6 a.m., and do that all over again, and you put your family through all of this, some stereotypes say that you may end up perhaps with a different wife or a younger, more beautiful wife. To some extent, that is exactly what happened in my case. Except in my case, she's still my first wife, who I've been blessed to be married to for 34 years. And you know what? Thank you. Actually, you should be clapping for her. But in my case, she very rarely has traveled with me but I am so thrilled that she is here today. So if I can embarrass her, honey, would you please stand up? My beautiful wife, Irene. She's next to Frank Canada. So Frank, it was a choice whether you were going to be my wife or Irene, but... So I think Irene will vouch for this, and she will tell you that the key to our happy marriage is that throughout our 34 years, due to all of my travels, she's probably only had to endure me in person for about 15 of those. So it's worked. It's worked. But you know what? And let me just talk about family a little bit more. I firmly believe, and maybe it's not for everybody, but certainly a large part of my success was being able to go out and do my job, travel, and have a clear head because of the support I had at home. Not only from my beautiful bride, but from my two wonderful children, who are now 28 and 26. And you know, it's pretty interesting because I'm coming up on my 20-year anniversary of my first Drupa as a CEO. So the year 2000 was my second Drupa. First was 1995, but it was my first as a CEO. And Irene knew that I would miss my kids dearly because I was going to be gone for 10 days and they were 8 and 6. So she was very kind, and I will share this with you. So she had this printed for me that I used for my press conference at Drupa 2000 as the CEO of Kodak Polychrome Graphics. It says, "I love you, Dad." I don't think my kids had anything to do with that, and if I tried to get them to say that now, I don't think it would happen. But that's pretty good imaging 20 years later. And you know, what I now realize today is probably took Irene about 2 days to get printed. I can now call my Reggiani operation in Italy and get it printed on a bolt and have about 1 million of them done in no time flat. So a little bit more about the career. I started with Polychrome, and then Polychrome became Kodak Polychrome, which was a 50-50 joint venture between Eastman Kodak and Sun Chemical Corporation. And then Kodak Polychrome was eventually sold to Kodak Graphics. And then Kodak Graphics, I left and became the chairman and CEO of Prestech. And then I went from Prestech on to Xerox, where eventually I became the CEO. I took a little break, joined Cirrus Capital, who we'll talk about, and then on to EFI. You know, I've said a number of times, EFI is the only CEO job that I would have come back to this industry for. And it's a simple reason, and I'm looking at it right now. It's 800 people, 800 customers who love this industry, love technology, understand that EFI will work with you to keep you at the forefront of technology, and we will take our entire business and try and understand, like my mentor Ed Barr and the Harry Quadraccis of the world, where is the market moving, where are our customers going, and how will we help keep you at the forefront of technology, as well as the fact that running our business and our clear purpose is all about our customers. So now I want to talk a little bit about Cirrus Capital. And as a matter of fact, two of our board members, two gentlemen from Cirrus Capital are here today. You're going to see and hear from Al Zoller tomorrow. Michael Seidman is here as well. You should take the opportunity to speak to them. So Cirrus Capital closed on the acquisition of EFI on July 23rd. And I think, as most of you are aware, I was going to be the executive chairman. Bill Muir, who some of you met last year at this conference, stepped down due to personal reasons, and I became the CEO on or about August 12th. Cirrus is a tech fund based in New York City, private equity firm, but a technology fund. And as a matter of fact, Cirrus, the reason I joined Cirrus, I spent more time with private equity firms and more private equity firms than I even knew existed. But I joined Cirrus because they're great people. As a matter of fact, their business model tends to acquire public companies that probably are better situated in a private forum as they make certain shifts from analog to digital. And in fact, EFI is their expansion from pure tech to industrial tech. And the founders of Cirrus and Cirrus Capital loves technology. They love companies that are in the middle of that analog to digital transition. They love companies with leading positions, as we have with productivity software, Fiery, display graphics, digital textile, and digital corrugated. And I want to tell you one more thing about Cirrus Capital of why I believe this is great for you as customers. You know what I did last week for 3 hours? is I spent time with two of the three founders of Cirrus Capital. And don't get me wrong, they care a great deal about growth, and they care a great deal about cash flow and profitability. But that 3-hour window was spent on nothing but quality, service, and technology investments we're going to make, so that we don't focus on short-term thinking and we focus on long-term thinking. So I don't think this company can have a better owner than we have today in Cirrus Capital. So here's the agenda for today. One of the things we're going to cover is kind of my parallel path in my 30 years with EFI's 30 years in this industry. Then I'm going to share some leadership philosophies, business philosophies, but somewhat intertwining it with Jeff Pilkington's 4 pillars of futuristic thinking. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the future, and we're going to talk about Drupa. Deirdre, I think we need to progress a little bit. Excuse me, thank you, I'm sorry. Okay, so I started in 1987 as the Corporate Employee Relations Manager at Polychrome. And prior to that, I worked at Paramount Pictures and RCA in Human Resources. In fact, when I joined Polychrome, I had to repeatedly explain what a polychrome was. I never had that issue when I worked at Paramount Pictures or RCA, and because the company was called Polychrome, people would actually think we had something to do with parrots or birds. So here's where the parallels are. I joined in 1987. EFI was founded in 1988, just a number of months after I joined the industry. In fact, in 1991, the first Fiery was shipped. It's also the year Irene and I had our first child. At that point, I was working all day. She was kind enough to make me 2 sandwiches that I could brown bag for lunch and dinner, and now I was in my 2nd year of law school at night. Around 1993, EFI established their partnerships with Canon, Kodak, Minolta, notice I didn't say Konica Minolta, and Ricoh. And EFI was on the list of fastest growing companies in the United States. In 1993, when Irene and I had our 2nd child, I graduated law school. And what's a little known secret is I actually resigned from Polychrome Sun Chemical to become a full-time labor and employment attorney. Ed Barr, the chairman and CEO of Sun Chemical, talked me out of it. He said that anyone who could run an HR function, take 4 law school classes a semester, and get by on 3 hours of sleep for 4 years needs to have an operating career. And I think the people in the audience can certainly appreciate that. However, he sent me up to Canada, and his quote was, "I'm sending you up to Canada where you can learn and not hurt me too much." Now, the benefit of that from his standpoint is I didn't have to move, or my benefit, but I took the first flight up every Monday morning and the last flight back every Friday night for about 15 months after I just put Irene and my family through 4 years of going to law school at night, and miraculously, I stayed married. But in the early 2000s, I was then named the CEO of Kodak Polychrome Graphics, a 50-50 joint venture and the leading plate provider in our industry, which was then fully acquired by Kodak in 2005. In that same year of 2005, EFI surprised everyone and entered the industrial inkjet print market with the acquisition of Utech. In 2012, EFI acquired Cretaprint, and I joined Xerox. In 2015, EFI acquired Reggiani, which was when Xerox announced it was splitting into 2 publicly held companies, which led me to becoming the CEO. In 2019, as you now know, I joined Cirrus Capital, and Cirrus acquired EFI, and I became executive chairman and CEO. So that's kind of how my career and EFI came together. But one of the reasons I feel so strongly about this company is I've had a 20-year association with it. We're going to see Guy Geck tonight, who you all know very well. And Guy and I have known each other for 20 years. I've sold a business to him. I was one of the largest customers when I was at my old company. And I've known many of the people here. And what I have felt for the longest time in my career, and especially now, if you want to work one place in this industry, it's EFI, because it's the technology company in the industry. So let's go on to futuristic thinking. So, since some of you may have just watched the greatest of all time Jeopardy tournament, I always wanted to be Alex Trebek. So ladies and gentlemen, here are today's Jeopardy categories. We have Be Present, Continually Test the Status Quo, Become an Expert Generalist, and Make Life Simple. So as we are here in Las Vegas, James Holzhauser's home, we'll start with Be Present for $1,000. So it's interesting that almost every time I have come in as a new leader of a company, almost everyone wants to talk about the future and where we are going. Whether it's continually reviewing and modifying the strategy every single quarter, or whether it relates to the next step in their career, they want to talk about the future. I hear very few people want to talk about the present first. The present is the now. I tell people, be present. Enjoy the present. Let the present be part of defining the future. Don't only look to the future. When our children are 4 years old, we are not envisioning them at age 60. We plant the seeds, we need to prune the flowers, we need to watch them grow and flourish. We need to let those seeds germinate and take place. We cannot redo our lawn every single day. I always say, and I say it to my 2 children, we need to make every single day count. We need to make deposits to our company's bank account every single day. A business and a career is a marathon of daily sprints. Every day has to count. It's interesting. We all talk about changes in the industry, but what my view is that while the industry does change, it tends to change at the speed of about a drupa or a drupa and a half. We've seen film move to CTP, CTP move to pure digital, then to inkjet, and now to industrial inkjet. So, while I just spoke in great detail about Be Present, at the same time, we do also need to think and plan for the future. One of my favorite quotes for the past 2 decades comes from the French author André Gide, who said, if you want to discover new oceans, you must have the courage to lose sight of the shore. Let's say that again. If you want to discover new oceans, you must have the courage to lose sight of the shore. This is the essence of the Now and Future Pendulum. One of the things which holds back companies is the fear of moving forward. It's why people say we've always done it that way. Some people are afraid of doing new things because it's a risk, and they do not want to be held accountable. I say all the time, yes, if I stand here and I do not move, unless that ceiling above me falls upon my head, nothing bad will happen to me. But at the same time, we will not move forward and we will not make progress either. Companies will never move forward if they do not take well thought out risks, create sound plans with measurements, metrics, and key performance indicators, and have the courage to lose sight of the shore. The answer is we need to do both. We need a now and we need a future pendulum. Which brings me to my second favorite quote. And you're going to see I have 3 favorite quotes, which I have continually used for the past 20 years from T.W. Malone, talking about strategy and leadership. And Malone says, in such a volatile environment, the future belongs not to those who are buffeted by change, cautiously adapting to it as needed, but to those with the foresight to recognize the potential offered by the very changes that others find so unsettling. That's a full sentence, but you know what it means to me? A lot of people can look good in good times and good markets. It's when the winds begin to change and the markets change. That's when leadership really makes the difference. And then the second part is a less famous author added, especially if they have fresh new approaches and possess the leadership persuasion skills to demonstrate the merits of their position despite the resistance of others. Folks, I will tell you, leadership is hard. It is wary. It is amazingly hard. It's rare that everyone on your team will agree, and those who are risk-averse will absolutely not want to take chances. Leading a team is about blending those who are risk-averse with those who are risk-takers and creating a recipe for success. So what I am espousing is that testing the status quo is the now and the future pendulum. Notice that I said now and future as opposed to now versus future. The now and the future coexist, and you need the now in order to fund and migrate to the future. You, our customers, cannot afford to eliminate everything you own and that you invested in if we come up with something new every year. In fact, this is the print-digital convergence. It's the coexistence of analog and digital, legacy versus new, mature versus developing. We at EFI manage the product life cycle curve each and every day in order to keep you, our customers, at the forefront of technology, while ensuring we still sustain your existing technology. So I want to talk now about the Expert Generalist. As my wife will be the first to say, I don't know if I'm an expert in anything. But I take great pride in attempting to be an expert generalist. I told you that I started my career in human resources and then became a labor and employment attorney. Years ago, I had great trepidation about moving up because I started as a staff person, thrust into an operational role. I told you about my mentor, Ed Barr, who pulled me from my budding legal career and threw me into the deep end. Talk about having the courage to lose sight of the shore. I was in the deep end of the ocean, and I knew that if I did not swim like hell, I would drown. And I had a young family. I remember one of my first sales calls. I will never forget it. We had a quality issue, and the customer, who was third generation in his business, handed me a loop. It looks something like this. Thank you, Ken Henulek. Excuse me. To myself, what I was really hoping he was going to give me that loop for was to look at diamonds, because I may have known something about that. But what else do you use a loop for? He saw I was a bit confused, and he told me to look for dot gain. Dot gain. I thought that was a good thing. It was a gain. Other than weight around your belly, when is gain a bad thing? It was then that I realized very clearly, and to this day, I may never know more technically than the people who were born into this industry. Very few people can become hardware experts, software experts, ink experts, consumable experts, essentially everything you see here today. However, I learned very early and very clearly that the key was to understand the market and where it was moving, and to mobilize all of the expert resources within my company and bring those to the customers. Because I learned, and I still remember and live it to this day, if you can bring value to your customers, you will always bring value to your company. You take a marketplace-back approach, understand your customer's operations, become integral to it, and in essence, be the general contractor for the house which you are building. The expert generalist theory rang true to me in a number of ways. First, I'll paraphrase another one of my favorite quotes from the person who I would say in my early generation was probably the greatest CEO I knew, Jack Welch of General Electric. Jack said, "I may not be the brightest bulb in the chandelier, but I know how to get every bulb to light brightly." That is what great leadership is all about. It is about taking your team to heights and to destinations that they would never see and achieve if you were not there as their leader. That's what it's all about. I remember around the year 2003, I was receiving an industry award. And while some may have been impressed by this, I was certainly pragmatic enough and realistic enough to know that I was the CEO of a relatively large company, and the association awarding me knew that if my company and I received the award, in all likelihood, we would buy 3 tables. Thus, the award. I did invite my wife and children to the ceremony. And as I was helping my 10-year-old son, Michael, put on his tie, he asked me a very honest question. "Daddy, you said you have thousands of people in your company. If you are the CEO, does that mean you are the smartest of them all?" That was my mirror, mirror moment. I wanted to say so badly, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, yes, I am." But I humbly explained to Michael that there were hundreds of people in the company smarter than Daddy. As most kids do, especially at 10, he then had the follow-up question. Then, Daddy, how come you are the CEO? And that's where I had one of my first conversations with my 10-year-old son about leadership and surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you and have skill sets which you absolutely do not possess. It's about being the general contractor. I explained that to be successful, no one can do everything by themselves. However, as the leader, if you are going to bring it all together and create a beautiful symphony, you needed to understand enough about what each person's role is and bring them together like the world's greatest conductor. Let's talk about making life simple. There is a reason for the KISS acronym. It's incumbent upon us at EFI to take you to the promised land in a very simple way. We have to make your transition from the now to the future simple. I remember when I went from the BlackBerry to the iPhone, and I had to be one of the last holdouts. I definitely was one of the last holdouts. I did not want to lose sight of the shore. I loved my keyboard, and I didn't want to give it up. But when I made that transition, I realized all of the productivity I had forgone by not migrating over sooner. The shift was relatively simple. I also remember the first productivity software users in the early 2000s. They were the true pioneers of this industry. They lived the adage, what doesn't kill you will certainly make you stronger. You in the audience are the leaders of the industry today for that reason, because you had the courage to lose sight of the shore. At EFI, our commitment is to provide you with the best technology, keep you at the forefront of technology, and to keep it simple. I'll leave the other S off. So, where all these four pillars came together for me, even before Pilkington came out with them, was when I took over as CEO of Kodak Polychrome Graphics in 2000. And I think the statute of limitations has passed, so I can tell you a lot of this. For those who do not remember, KPG was a 50-50 joint venture of Sun Chemical and Kodak. We were the leading lithographic plate provider, developed the first CTP plate, and back then manufactured and sold about 1 billion square feet of film. Just 20 years ago, think about that, 1 billion square feet of film. We had the best technology, took care of our customers, but due to poor prior management decisions of bringing together the three companies of Kodak Graphics, Polychrome, and Horst Atlantic, we were losing about $100 million a year and bleeding cash $10 million a month. My first CEO job, a lot of fun. We then applied, let's look at the four principles, the four pillars. Be present. Believe it or not, we're drowning. We're drowning. And there were people only talking about the future. It was very simple for me. If we do not live in the present, get the water out of the boat, get this business back to profitability, then there's no future. Very simple decision. As things got better, we needed to test the status quo a little bit. Believe it or not, there were some who said that CTP, computer to plate, would never make it. With thermal, which was our technology, win versus violet. The old debate of heat versus light. There were actually some people in the company that wanted to continue to bet on film and wanted to see CTP fail. Talk about competing interest in your own company. And then in terms of becoming an expert generalist, we did get to the point where we knew film and plates alone would not cut it. We had to expand. And we acquired Amation's color business, as well as real-time imaging from Israel. This plate and film company was now integrating software. Probably a lesser-known secret was we also developed plans to acquire Creo at that time, which would have been about the year 2004. We clearly knew we need to make life simple for our customers, and we were maniacal about keeping things simple and servicing the heck out of our customers. So net-net, in the year 2000, KPG was a company bleeding cash to the tune of $10 million a month. 5 years later, we were one of the most profitable companies in our industry. And while KPG had plans to acquire Creo, Kodak actually acquired Sun Chemical's 50% interest in KPG for $817 million and then acquired Creo. So let's look to the future. If you notice the gentleman on the sailboat, It's Frank Romano, who could not be with us at Connect, so we figured we would at least have him in the audience somehow. I think some of his colleagues in the journalist community will understand Frank doesn't like to fly, so he's on his way to Drupa by boat. So let's talk about success in the future. So when I said there was no company in this industry that I would have come back for as a CEO other than EFI, it was very simple for me. No company in this industry has the depth, the breadth, and most importantly of all, the ecosystem which EFI possesses. When I speak about keeping our customers at the forefront of technology, there is no company in this industry in a better position to do so. Serving our customers with Fiery, with the greatest color algorithms in the industry, providing EFI productivity software, which I have always said is analogous to the arteries which carry the blood through our body. It permeates our customers' operations. To the broadest industrial inkjet offerings in the industry, from display, ceramics, corrugated, and textile. You know what? The industry has stayed the same. And it's moved at the same time, too, from faster turnaround time, shorter runs, digitization, personalization, and now we have cloud enablement and security enablement, which is essential. I humbly say that EFI is committed to serving each of you and keeping your company at the forefront of technology. So this ecosystem, which is what the house of EFI was built upon, will come together as our beautiful symphony in Dusseldorf this June at Drupa. You will see our end-to-end technology, and we take great pride in serving essentially every aspect of your operation. In addition to the industry-leading technology, which you will see much of this week at Connect, you have our commitment that we will serve you with passion, energy, commitment, and unbelievable responsiveness. We will never promise you perfection, but we will promise you responsiveness. So in summary, I recognized very early in my career that our existence in our business is all because of you. Without our customers, we are absolutely nothing more than technology looking for a home. We live for the opportunity to serve you. It's one of the greatest highs that we absolutely get. In fact, when I was out of the industry for a year, I missed that high. I needed that fix of knowing that we were doing great things for our customers. In a business environment, there is absolutely nothing greater than that, and there is no greater high. So to summarize succinctly, everything I have tried to say to you today, we love that we are your now, and you have our commitment that we will do everything humanly possible to be in your future. Thank you very much.